oh, I can play the piano. I'm like, did you study? did you take a lesson?
Yeah, we have those TV things, Dance with the Stars, which
I could dance.
That's not dancing.
Right. And Martha Graham said it best. I'm sorry, before 10 years, you don't even talk about being a dancer until you've studied for 10 years. I couldn't even say those words. My mentor, Denise Jefferson, who was dear to me, was like, you need to study before you can be a dancer. So,
well, of course, you were at the Ailey School before.
I was a student of the Ailey School. I moved here from California a long time ago. Not so long for you, but maybe long for me. And I studied as a scholarship student, and which meant I auditioned for the privilege to study at Ailey. And then I danced with Ailey too, their second company. And so dance, for me, dance is about the rigor of creating a dancer. So you can't be a dancer without having gone through the 16,000 hours that it took to get there. So, and so I appreciate dance now when I see it.
Now, what about the drama aspect of it?
Oh, yeah.
How do you teach drama at the Harlem School of the Arts?
We start young. We have a class called Early Actor.
What is the youngest age that someone can go to the school?
Age 2.
Age what?
2.
2. Oh.
2, a whole 2. And they come with their parents, and we start early childhood classes with the family so that they understand what the child is trying to learn. But we, acting is a different animal. Like, that's the one that I don't, you know, it's not my forte. So I've hired somebody that's pretty good at his skill. He's a director, he's a working actor. And it's about the craft, it's about practicing, it's about diction, it's about enunciation. It's wonderful to listen to him talk about where the actor needs to be today. And our kids need that. That will make them better leaders just by going through an acting class at HSA.
Now, in terms of the aspect of discipline, you talked about arts and discipline. So much we see on television is undisciplined. And yet at the same time, they're saying, well, we want better artists and we want better performers.
Yeah.
How do you bridge that gap? How do you teach your students and performers discipline? What do you do to get that across?
Well, I think they see it through their progress. So if you start out and you can't play this song, and our teachers are really good at this, is they say, okay, don't worry about, you know, trying to master this song. You never master a song. You strive for perfection, but you never really attain that. As an artist, you realize what you don't know when you finished your art form. And so the teacher really takes them step by step and says, see where we are today. They mark it and they say, see, you can't play this song. And then they go through 6 or 7 lessons and then they play the song and then they show them, here's where we were. And then they take them on the journey of discipline. Because you can talk about discipline, but unless you actually show them the steps toward progress and success in achieving, let's just say, one song on the piano, you can't see it for yourself if you don't look back and see how far you've come.
Now, that's where your race to the schools comes in one sense, but there are a number of community groups, you know, church groups, police athletic groups, youth groups. How do you cooperate with those groups in the community?
Well, we're working to create partnerships. So, for example, one of my favorite ideas that I've come up with recently is I want to work with the churches in Harlem to create a praise dance festival where we bring all of the liturgical dance from each of their ministries, the dance ministries, and have them come to Harlem School of the Arts and celebrate and do some workshops and really just celebrate that art form that I don't think people realize. Almost every church has a dance ministry, and there takes discipline in that. So, so that's one of my fun ideas. Also, just letting them know that we're a resource for them. So if they need to come and have a class or have a group lesson, sometimes we have mommy organizations, for example, Jack and Jill. They are setting up a hip hop class for the kids in their so the families, and I thought that was great. I was like, come on in and let's do a class together. So it's encouraging the partnerships and just sowing the seeds and letting them know we're there for them.
Well, part of your job, I guess, is letting people know about Harlem School of the Arts.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the other things you do other than coming on African American Legend to let people know about Harlem School of the Arts?
Well, you want to make sure that the message is clear, that what we're offering and what our mission is clear. So that's constant, updating the website, making sure the press knows we're still around, making sure our families are spreading the word, making sure they're ambassadors, making sure our board is doing that. The other thing is just making sure that our materials are clear. So sometimes we have brochures and catalogs and physical materials. And I'm sorry, coming on African American Legends is really important to spread the word.
Well, a lot of people say it. Now, your board, who's on your board other than Charles Hamilton, the well-known attorney?
Charles Hamilton started the five, as I want to call it. In 2010, April 2010, the entire board of Harlem School of the Arts was removed, and a new board was installed. And that board consisted of 5 people originally, and Charles Hamilton was head of that 5. Janice Savin Williams is one of our executive committee board members. Jeffrey Lycan, Dean Mary Schmidt Campbell of NYU, who's a Harlem resident, and her son went to Harlem School of the Arts as a musician, and so did one of Janice's children. And there's a 5th, and Milton Irvin, who was on the board almost 15 years ago and came back as our treasurer. So I have the luxury of history of a group that knows Harlem School of the Arts sometimes better than I do.
Well, of course, what you have is a revitalization, because when the economy went down, many arts groups had great difficulty.
They weren't prepared.
And now we're building it up. Harlem is actually developing economically, but the arts are also developing economically. But when somebody asks you, well, why is it important that we have a School of the Arts in Harlem?
Yeah.
What would be your answer?
Because everyone deserves world-class arts training, because arts helps you to compete in the world. And they've done studies. Actually, the President's Council Committee on Arts and Humanities, which Mary Schmidt Campbell sits on, has proven that children that have prolonged interaction with arts education are 4 times more likely to succeed academically. And I'm sorry, we can't leave that on the table. We have to utilize what arts can bring to a child's life and making them able to compete after they leave Harlem School of the Arts. It's also in the community, so you don't have to go downtown. You can go right to your community as a resource. And it was her dream. It was Dorothy Mainer's dream.
What about the role of arts in extending the culture?
Yes.
See, whenever anybody thinks about Harlem, they think about music and dance and the Savoy and the Apollo.
Rich, rich history.
Some of us feel that they also ought to think about science and technology and economics, etc. How can you bring those 2 things together?
Wow, that was a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Right, that was tough. Thank you. Well, I'm partnering with organizations to do that. So my mission is not to teach science, but my mission is to make sure that schools that are rigorous can add me as an arts component. So it's much easier to tack on arts education in this way than to put it on your budget, on your annual budget. That being said, I am a mathematician. I don't know if you know that, but I graduated from Berkeley with a degree in applied mathematics with an emphasis in actuarial science. And I believe that my studying violin and piano and dance enhanced that. And I don't have any true stats on that for me, but I started the violin at 9, and I don't know why math is my thing, and so I'm a numbers person. So the other side of my job is the budgets, is looking at the numbers and making sure it's all in the right order. But I believe that music and dance and that kind of rigorous arts training enhances a child's ability to learn and to learn science and math. And I was I was actually the only African American female to graduate from Berkeley with a math degree in my year. And so that was 500 people and me. So we really have a ways to go. We need to really encourage kids to really study those fields, because there is a deficit in science and computer science and math.
It's interesting. My granddaughter went to Berkeley, and she's a geologist and a dancer as well.
That's funny. What year, I wonder?
Well, I won't tell you that.
Okay.
Okay. But the real essence of the Harlem School of the Arts, it does represent something that came from the spirit of Harlem, came from the spirit of the arts. And communicating that is so very, very important. To what extent will you be able to invite community groups just to come into the school just to talk?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Of course, and we want to be a place where that happens. So I think partnering with the Harlem Arts Alliance and groups in Harlem, like the Greater Chamber of Commerce, Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, is also another way to make sure we are hosting those kinds of events and spurring that kind of conversation, because it's important for us to partner and not be separate entities, but to become one amazing community. You know, this spring, our street has been named Dorothy Maynard Place, by the way. It was signed into law last year by the mayor. And we're celebrating that this year. We're celebrating our founder and what she has brought to the community. And so I'm hoping that everyone will come and just join us for that celebration this year. The whole year is dedicated to her.
Now, if anybody wants to contact you, how do they contact you?
Website. So www.hsanyc.org. Everything you need to know is there. Or you can just stop by. Monday through Saturday, we are open from 10 a.m. to
And your address is?
Is 645 St. Nicholas Avenue, just off the 145th Street station, ABCD.
That's very good. Today on African American Legends, we've been talking with Yvette Campbell, who is the president and CEO of the Harlem School of the Arts, one of the outstanding arts institutions in our community. Glad to have you with us today, Yvette.
Glad to be here.
Very good.